Within India itself, a lot of hospitals are transforming, wherein they've started to move towards digitization, to start using digital elements for capturing healthcare information. If you want to get into healthcare, you have to be good in that technology, irrespective of whatever you're working in. Your knowledge of the domain comes into picture. A lot of these students that I teach come from a medical background or from a B Pharma background. They're not from a technical background, but they want to get into the IT side of it.
Yeah.
If you just want to look at something else, if you want to teach or if you want to write an article, you have to have that goal in mind, even if you want to write a book or create a Udemy course of your own.
Have you guys ever thought of having a career in healthcare IT? Also, would you guys like to know if writing can give you passive income? If these are the questions that you're juggled with, then this episode is for you. Our guest today is Harish Rijwani, who is a healthcare IT professional and is an author of 4 books. So let's get started with this candid conversation without wasting much time.
So, hi Harish, I welcome you to the Crazy Careers podcast. And we'll begin with the biggest question of today's conversation, which is what is healthcare IT?
Thank you so much for having me. Now, healthcare IT is primarily technology which we use in the healthcare space, but it's not limited only to a hospital. It could also be something which is used by the patient or the insurance company or even the pharma and life sciences companies. So all of this together, right, forms your healthcare IT technology, and it's quite different in terms of the normal technology. It's not that you're not going to be using the same tech stack like Java, .NET, and everything. Within healthcare, you have specific standards like HL7, FHIR, EDI. They all come into picture wherein you want to send data related to healthcare from one entity to another. And within healthcare also, you have a lot of different codes and terminologies. So all of that kind of encompasses to make it healthcare IT.
Right, right. So, is the sector booming, or if I'll consider like in India, what is the stage right now for healthcare IT?
So if you look at it, right, I've been in the healthcare IT space for the past 20 plus years. I started off my IT journey in the healthcare IT space itself. Within India itself, a lot of hospitals are transforming, wherein they've started to move towards digitization. There are a lot of regulations which have come in. There are incentives for hospitals also to start using digital elements for capturing healthcare information. So definitely there is a lot of scope, but within the healthcare IT space also, right? The IT space does not limit itself only to Indian hospitals. Most of the companies focus on international hospitals as well, international organizations as well. Yeah, be it international health insurance companies or hospitals in US, Canada, even in UK. Right? So it's not limited to that. So there is a lot of scope because quite a lot of the healthcare space is still undigitized. So people are moving towards that. So definitely there is a boom if you look at it from that point of view.
Right. So if I can like put it in simple words, healthcare IT for common people to understand, it is something like automating our healthcare sector, implementing IT to automate our healthcare sector, something like that.
Yeah, you can put it that way. Let's say if you want to take an appointment, right? You want to take an appointment, what would you do? You'll call the hospital and tell them I want to meet so and so doctor.
Right.
Nowadays, if you go to the hospital of Hinduja, you go to the Hinduja website, right? There you can choose the doctor, you can select the patient, the physician's name, the time slot, and you can get your appointment. As simple as that. That is digitizing the healthcare space. So that's one element of it.
Right.
But even from the billing point of view, it's very complicated. If I put it that way, there's so many different things which come into picture.
Right.
If you go to a retail store, you find a price tag for everything. But if you go to a hospital, you don't find a price tag for everything because it's very complicated. Every patient that comes into the hospital, they have one or the other condition. They don't have the same condition.
Yeah.
So the complication lies in how do you treat a patient who has comorbid conditions or does not have comorbid condition or any other condition for that matter.
Right.
So all these elements, right, when you put it into a software trying to decipher how do you find the best price for that particular patient. In a sense, all of these elements make together the healthcare IT,
Right.
the software that you created.
How did you land up in this sector? What was your background
I
and then how did you come to this sector?
so I done my BE
Yeah.
electronics. I studied from Thammal Shani Engineering College, and I got a job in Centel
Okay.
after my engineering.
Okay.
When I started off in mainframe.
Okay.
And when you look at it, right, I was working in a hospital already. In the sense, the project that was there, it was for a US hospital, and the project was on managing the payroll application for this US hospital. So, inadvertently, I was already in healthcare. I didn't choose healthcare. Healthcare kind of chose me in that sense that I've been in healthcare from that point of time. So from there, from starting from working in the payroll space, then I worked in a little bit on the finance side. I worked in patient accounting, revenue cycle management, the supply chain space, clinical applications, non-clinical applications. Over the span of 20 years, I've worked in different areas
Right.
within the healthcare space. And even after doing my MBA, I did my MBA along with my office.
Okay.
It wasn't that I did a full-time MBA, I took a break. I did my MBA along with my office. That is where I continued that
So
journey of being in the
an
healthcare.
executive MBA you're trying to say, right?
No, it was part-time MBA. It was evening.
Okay, okay.
So
Right.
I studied from NMIMS, 3 years part-time.
Right.
The evening after office, I used to go to college to 6:45 to 9:15. I had my
Wow.
college.
Right. A lot of hard work, I must say. Okay, and now I have this particular question for my viewers. Like, if someone, as you have already correctly said, that you have not chosen healthcare IT, but healthcare IT has chosen you. So, what is your advice to the people or the young generation who would like to come to this career and establish their career in healthcare IT? And I mean, what should be the basic or formal qualification they should have, and what is the added certification or anything required for this, if you can give a glance on that.
So there are two ways in which you can get into the healthcare IT space. So when you look at the engineering background, right, people who come from an engineering background, their intention or their thought process is that, okay, I want to work in a specific technology.
Right.
I want to work in Java, I want to work in .NET, I want to work in data science, or whatever that technology might be, right? If you want to get into healthcare, you have to be good in that technology, irrespective of whatever you're working in. But within healthcare, if you really want to showcase that, you have to show your experience. You have to show whatever you have learned. Be it if you want to build a dashboard or even if you want to build a mobile application, right? You have to show that you have built something. Rather than just putting it on your resume, you have to show that, okay, you built an application for a hospital. There are a lot of hospitals. Yeah. You have a small clinic. Even if you want to build something for that clinic, you can show that okay, you built something and it is being used by so and so. Because a lot of students now have the option of doing these internships.
Yes.
Through that, if you land an internship in a hospital or in a small clinic or even an insurance company, that is where you can show your experience. I was saying, when I look at the second aspect, that people who do not want to work in the technical space, they want to work in a non-technical space. Because within the IT space, there are a lot of roles wherein a person can be a business analyst. Yeah, you want to be a process analyst, you want to be a product analyst. Here is where your knowledge of the domain comes into picture. Because a lot of people who who studied BDS or MBBS, and they do a course in hospital management, and they do a course in pharma management. That is where you get into the IT side of it. You can get into the IT side of it. So a lot of these students that I teach come from a medical background or from a B pharma background. They're not from a technical background, but they want to get into the IT side of it. So that domain knowledge helps them make that get into the IT space, because they'll be able to contribute more from that aspect. So the roles are more like business analyst, process analyst, the product analyst. Then you can get into a project management role also in the long run.
Right. So, yeah, absolutely. Like, people from the same background, they add a lot of values to it. And from where I can see, healthcare IT is like, it's kind of a multidisciplinary sector where medical students and even the engineering students, they collaboratively can create something. So that's where it comes in. Now, my next question would be like, you're an author by yourself, and not only one, two, but you have written 4 books. So how did you manage this to do along with your job?
So I also teach as a visiting faculty. So
Yeah.
what has happened, right? I, as an author, I started off my journey in my engineering college itself.
Okay.
I was co-author of a book, uh, co-author of the book of one of my professors, right?
Yeah.
Electromagnetic Fields and Waves. That was the second
Right.
edition of the book, but that book never got published. So
Okay.
this was way back in 2000, 2001.
Right.
Right? So in my mind, probably I wanted to get that published. I did try later on also, but it didn't work out with the publisher.
Okay.
And when I started teaching in the healthcare IT space itself. So
Mhm.
over the span of 7 years, after teaching healthcare IT in the span of 7 years, I just decided let me write a book. I was writing blogs and articles when I was in Sintel. I just thought of converting that into a book,
Right.
and that definitely helps because you are kind of capturing whatever little knowledge you have in terms of writing. So that is where I thought of getting into writing, and I've written 5 books. So there are 3 non-fiction books and 2 novels. So
Okay.
when I looked at the non-fiction aspect, right, it was easier because whatever I wrote was based on my experience and knowledge.
Experience and knowledge. Yeah. Absolutely.
So when I started writing fiction, that wasn't so easy because I was still trying to write non-fiction. So
Mhm.
what I did was I did a course from British Council Library during the
Okay.
pandemic in 2021. I did a 3-month course and I did a second one also. After that, I wrote my first novel. So it wasn't like a easy journey, and to write, especially the novel, yeah, you need to you have to write regularly. So I set a goal for myself, and after like 10 p.m. or so, after my office is done, I write a certain number of words because I have that mindset that okay, I want to complete this particular book or this particular chapter. And that I
Yeah.
keep that in my mind in the back of my head, and then I focus towards that.
Right. So, did you face writer's block at any point of time? Not in terms of like non-fiction book that you have written, but for the novels that you have written. So, did you face writer's block?
Sometimes, but not that much, I would say, because I take a break in writing. So it's like
Okay.
the way I segregated it, right? I wrote the first novel. I
Mhm.
gave myself like 6, 7 months. After that, I wasn't writing for another 6 months.
Okay.
I was focusing on recording my Udemy course. So in that sense, right, there was already a break. But in my mind, I knew what I wanted to write next, and I was
Right.
thinking. And since these are all corporate experiences, 9 to 5 cubicle tales is more like what can happen in the IT space in the corporate world, right? And it
Yeah.
can be anybody's experience for that matter. So a lot of people give me ideas. Okay, write about this. Yeah, write about so and so experience that they might have faced. So
Right.
it's a lot of fun getting that experience from people. And again, you have a lot of options nowadays to identify. You have a lot of tools online wherein you can have a plot generator. If you give a
Yeah.
particular setting or a theme, right, you will get that plot in the sense you will know what you want to detail out.
Right. Right. What are the interventions of AI in a life of a writer currently? And is it good or bad? I know this is something out of the box question, but I'd really like to know because I'm
So
asking an IT person, and you'd be the mostly like the best person to ask this question.
see, when you start writing, right? When I started writing, when I wrote my first novel, there was no AI,
Mhm.
right? And one of the things that teacher used to tell us when
Mhm.
I did the course that you have to read your novel again and again, again and again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously, when you have tools, AI tools, you can get a lot of information. You can tell the bot to write for you also,
Yeah.
but that doesn't serve the purpose, right?
Right.
So what I do is I try to validate whatever I've written. I
Yeah.
try to get feedback because how many people ever you Even if I ask somebody else to read my part, right, they need time to read it. Here I
Right.
can get that feedback directly. Here I can understand what is incorrect, what should I correct, is the flow going correctly. That is something definitely you can use. Nowadays, you also have the option of using AI to create your own book covers.
Yeah. Yeah.
How effective it can be, it again, you'll have to wait and see in terms of that. Because even on Amazon, since I'm a self-published author, I'm not a traditional published author. Since I'm a self-published author, even in Amazon now you have to mention specifically whether you have used content from any AI tool. You have to specifically
Okay.
highlight. So AI definitely can help, but it depends. If you're really going to use AI and publish a book, you'll have to highlight that. But how effective is it going to be capture what you have in your mind, right? That is going to be key.
Right, right, absolutely. So it is at the end of the day, it is you and how you're editing your book. That's all matters. And yes, so a lot of authors are watching this podcast. So can we really generate some kind of passive income through writing? And when I say writing, through self-publishing our books, because traditional publishing, they have a different way of working, processes entirely different. But as far as the self-publishing is concerned, can we generate a passive income through that? And what is the quickest way to generate the passive income?
I wouldn't say you'll get any huge passive income. The
Mhm.
straightforward answer would be right. As a self-published author, when I started publishing, right, the first thing which was big, I used Amazon Kindle.
Right,
The penetration of Kindle within India is very limited. Not many people in India use Kindle. In
right,
US, it is there. And in US, what I've been trying over the years is trying to see if I can leverage uh, Amazon advertising. You have the option as a person who's published or self-published a book, right? You can use Amazon advertising. If
right,
you're able to master that, and if you've written in a subject where people are interested in that, you can definitely create that income. As present, I haven't been able to master that, but there is
right,
definitely scope for that in terms of how you use Amazon and how do you leverage the tools that Amazon gives you to build that. In terms of India, it was only after 3 years I realized that I can also create a print on demand option. I wasn't
right,
aware of that, which is where I use Poti, where using which I am able to create a print on demand option for my books. Right? So
right,
it's like in US on Amazon itself, if you have, you can create a print version also. It's just that they print it on demand. In India, in Amazon on India they don't have that option. So you have to go through a third party. So
okay,
definitely it's something you'll have to learn. But again, if you're able to master the aspect of using advertising on Amazon, you definitely might be able to make that work. But again, it depends on your audience because whatever I have written kind of caters more towards the Indian audience, even though the book is based in US to a large extent.
hmm,
How do I really reach out to the Indian audience in US? That's something still to be thought about.
right. Do you think there is a shift of crowd from traditional book reading to blogs and watching videos?
Very much. It's like people people see the mobile every day, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of people through podcast, there's a lot of interest in podcast, right? Where
Mhm.
people are trying to see that on the go. And even on tools like Spotify or you have these, I forgot the name of the book, the tool wherein you can listen to the podcast, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
even listen to books, ebooks. So I
yeah.
even tried recording couple of chapters of my book on that the audiobooks, right? To see
Yes.
if you can, if there is an interest in that. But I didn't get that much of interest. Again, it depends on how much you pursue it. You'll have to pursue it persistently. That is where you
Right,
might get that. Because unless you are not known, I don't think as an author, especially as an author of a book, you might get that passive income. I
right.
have, if I put it practically, I have more students on Udemy than the number of books I've sold.
Okay. So, tell me your experience with Udemy and teaching as a visiting faculty in different colleges. How's your experience? Because on your daily life, you must be meeting people who are already have, I mean, are in that stage, with stage like you have already gone through. So, what is your experience?
So when I completed my MBA, somehow I wanted to teach. That I
Yeah,
wanted to share that experience. I wanted to share that knowledge. And getting that first opportunity was very difficult because it's like any other opportunity that you want to get.
yeah.
I kind of got an opportunity to speak in KJ Somaiya Management College. I got a guest lecture. But after that, it took me another 2.5 years, wherein I was able to teach a specific subject. So Wellinger was starting their course on healthcare. They were starting
Okay,
their PGDM course on healthcare, which is where I got an opportunity to teach one subject. When I
right.
started teaching, right, it wasn't a cakewalk. I got the opportunity. That was after a long time. But when I started teaching, it wasn't that straightforward. I can give you an example. I was teaching in class. I was sharing what I know. I was sharing
Yeah.
my experience in terms of the healthcare journey. And I was drawing a workflow to a group of 13 students. On the board, I was drawing the workflow. And in between, one of the students, he got up, he raised his hand, he got up, and he
Mm-hmm.
told me, whatever you're telling me, it doesn't make any sense. I cannot understand one word of what you're telling me. Okay? So
Okay.
you can imagine the reaction that you get. Imagine the
Yeah.
reaction that if you are told that, okay, whatever you're telling, it doesn't make sense. But when I look at it in hindsight,
Mm-hmm.
it was a good feedback to get early on in your career that how do you really, improve from that point. And it took me another three sessions or 3 years, if I put it that way, right? The subject used to happen only in October. When I
Yeah.
started teaching initially, I used to have only one subject. I used to teach it in October. It took me around 3 years to improve the way I teach,
Right.
to make it more interactive as it is, right? That is where I've learned how do you connect with the students, how do you share your experiences, how do you incorporate fun in day-to-day activities, be it using a crossword to gauge their knowledge, or even using dumb charades or Pictionary to explain them certain concepts. Because once you start involving the students, right, they'll get an idea in terms of they'll at least remember those 2 words that you told them, or the 2 words that they were trying to guess.
Yeah.
And I learned that through time because I read a book called Made to Stick, which is where it's a book by Chip Keith and Dan Heath in terms of how do you make an idea stick. Right? Rather than just telling something, you have to explain it to them. You have to make them curious about whatever you're talking about. So over the years, I started teaching. I got into different subjects. After I got into Wellington, I got other opportunities as well. That was again after a certain number of years, after 5, 6 years, I got into other colleges also. And 3 years ago, I wrote the first book of healthcare. I decided to create a Udemy course on that.
Okay.
And somehow it kind of picked up, and there are more than 1,500 students for that one particular course.
Okay.
And they cover across different countries. They're across 70 plus countries, which is there, right? A lot of people are using that course. And again, it depends on the topic. It has to be something unique. It has to be something which people are looking for. I never did any of that research, to be frank. I just thought, let me just put this out. I could even give this to my students because I do
Yeah.
give some of my courses to my students as well, so that they can
Okay.
revise. Right? So in that sense, I started off my Udemy journey, and then I added 3 more courses over the last couple of years.
Okay. So, if you can rank countries where there is a boom in healthcare IT, so which country would come first, second, and third?
In terms of the revenue, the market potential, if I look at it right, organization primarily focus on US healthcare.
Okay.
Then they look at US and Canada. And
Right.
now I'm hoping that people will start also to focus on the Indian healthcare because there are a lot of reforms coming into picture. There are a lot of opportunities which are there, wherein opportunities for organization to tap in. So in terms of ranking, which you look at it, right, most of the organizations they focus on US healthcare
Right.
because US has a lot of reforms which come into picture, and because of these reforms, there is a need for investing in the IT space. Even if I look at in 2009 when Barack Obama came in, right? He invested $19 billion just to digitize the healthcare space. And that is where it kind of he created a market for people to invest in healthcare IT. Which is why you'll find a lot of MNCs investing over there. In the
Yeah.
same way, organizations invest in UK, they invest in Canada. But again, in UK and Canada, if I look at it, right, there are regulations which are there in terms of they're mostly government-based organizations. So it's not that easy to enter that space.
Exactly.
But there is a lot of scope for that. Even in Singapore and other countries, right, you find a lot of hospitals which invest in digitization in and Middle East as well.
Yeah.
And now in India as well, if I look at it, there is a lot of scope for healthcare digitization because there are reforms which have come into picture.
Right, right. So, yeah. So, if someone would like to start a startup in healthcare IT sector, what would be the best idea keeping the future in mind?
A lot of people are focusing on Gen AI. So definitely that could be something to consider.
Yeah.
But again, what ultimately matters is the business. You have to identify the right problem to solve. It. I cannot give you answer. Okay, let's invest in so and so area. But
Mhm.
the process is always the same. It. Many people focus on the technology, but unless that technology does not solve a business problem, it's not going to be helpful.
Right.
It. Let's say there is, like for example, you have a lot of background noise, right, when you're recording podcasts, which is where you have the software of Chris. It's a
Yeah.
very straightforward and simple example, right? There has to be a business problem to solve. A lot of people are focusing on building digital applications for healthcare. There are organizations which focus on building mobile applications for pregnant women, the expecting mothers,
Yes. Yeah.
or for certain other kind of people who have a certain disability. There are a lot of things which come into picture. You have to try and solve a specific problem. So you have to focus on one particular problem. If you're building a product, then your mindset has to be different. Otherwise, you can definitely look at building a service company wherein you're primarily going to be helping other clients in scaling.
Right. So you had already mentioned that you used to write blogs and those blogs you converted to books. So are you still writing your blog on regular basis or
No, so I had written corporate blogs. What
okay.
I converted in terms of books was my teaching experience that I had in terms of the subject health informatics. So that I converted into a book. But I do write some blogs on my own website.
Okay.
I do try and write some of them whenever I get time.
Right.
But I've also seen that nowadays I just saw a post a couple of days back that on Medium also, if you want to really monetize your writing, you can
Yeah.
definitely try Medium because now they have the option of, I think they have the option of India getting into that drop down option. I don't know what they call it, but you can definitely monetize it through India
Right.
media.
So
So I do,
yeah, yeah. Please continue.
yeah. So I do write blogs on my website. Is all I mean.
Yeah, so would
And
you
I do
like
make
to
my
mention
students write a lot of stuff.
a lot of stuff for your
I
website?
no. I do ask my students to write on LinkedIn. I
Okay.
give them topics to write on LinkedIn. So you'll find a lot of articles which have been written by my students on healthcare IT or whatever they've studied in class, right? I make them write on LinkedIn so that they're able to share that knowledge and experience with everyone.
That's a good practice, yeah, for everyone to like stay informed and all. Would you like to mention your website name for our viewers?
So my website name is harishrijwani.com.
Okay. Yes. It was actually, this is for the first time, honestly, this is for the first time I'm meeting an IT professional who is really so relaxed and cool and trying different things. Because generally people in IT sector, they consider like going by 9, coming back by 6, or maybe like getting delayed and then ranting over all those things. So, but you are the first IT professional I'm meeting, like who is really trying different things. So, what would be your piece of advice to the IT people, or in general to the 9 to 6 like cubicle people, or who are in like nine to
Anybody
six
works 9 to
jobs?
6 nowadays? I don't think that exists. Primarily because when you got in the concept of flexible working, even though my book title is 9 to 5 cubicle days, In
Yeah.
reality, right, it's more like a selling point,
Yeah.
right? That okay, what happens in the 9 to 5 space. But as soon as you bought into the picture of flexible timing, you kind of remove that barrier that okay, you only have to work 9 to 5. Because since you're working with an international client, or if you work with a UK client, right, your time slot is going to change.
Yeah. Yes.
You have evening calls and everything, right? So a lot of the IT folks work in that space. But in general, the advice I would say is, like I mentioned before as well, you have identify that business problem. If you want to solve something, identify that, work towards that. You should have a goal in mind.
Yeah.
If you just want to look at something else, if you want to teach, or if you want to write an article, you have to have that goal in mind. Even if you want to write a book or create a Udemy course of your own, it doesn't take much to create a Udemy course actually. You just need a laptop, you need a software like
Yeah.
OBS, you need a podcast mic like you have in front of you, right? You need that kind of a mic, and you can record it and just put it out there. So
Right.
you need that mindset that okay, I want to achieve this, and you need to give yourself a deadline. If you don't do that, it's not going to work. Otherwise, it's just going to be something in your mind that okay, this is what I wanted to do. I always wanted to try that, but never did that. You just have to put that thought process in action.
Absolutely. So, can we expect your next book in near future?
Yeah, I'm working towards that. Hopefully in this year.
So, would you like to spill some wins on that? Like what it is, what kind of book is it? A fiction, non-fiction?
It's fiction only
Okay. Okay.
with a little
That's
bit
all
of
you want
hopefully
to?
with a little bit of romance, hopefully. But let's see.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. It was really nice talking to you, and I really wish that you do a lot of thing and educate people on healthcare IT. And I really got to know very much like insightful information about healthcare IT and how being a self-published author, what you can do, what discipline we can bring in ourselves to become an author. Because being an author, it's not only about getting some income out of it, but it is more of your passion kind of thing. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I really wish you all the best for all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck to you as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah.